The United States of America is an amazing destination for anyone wanting to go on holiday. However, despite all the glitz, the glamour, and everything else we associate with the States, there are some huge mistakes that many people make whilst going to that fantastic country. I have been a lot. If you look at over the shoulder there, my shoulder, I've been to countless. I could count them, but I won't. That'll take forever. I've been across all of the US, been to many different places, cities, sites, tourist attractions, and all that malarkey. So while the US is a fantastic place to visit and I would thoroughly recommend going, there are some clangers that tourists can make, some real clangers. And today I'm going to run through 10 mistakes you want to avoid in the States. This is going to run from some fairly innocuous ones, which might be a little bit awkward or cause social problems, all the way up to things that can cost you tens, if not more, of thousands of dollars. So let's get cracking with this. The first mistake you'll want to avoid is any shenanigans or complications with an ESTA. ESTA, not of course a woman called ESTA. I'm sure they're all really lovely. At least the ones I've known who are called ESTA have been delightful. So not ESTA, the female. I'm talking about ESTA, ESTA, the Electronic System for Travel Authorization. Yes, if, like me, you are British, I'm proud to be British, I get my flag waving, then you have to obviously make sure you apply for one in advance of your holiday. It costs $21 and is valid for 2 years from the date of issue. But it is critical that you get this ESTA because if you don't, then you ain't going to get into the country, which is obviously a big, big problem. I don't know how it works. I don't know if you can actually get onto a plane and get to the States without an ESTA because it's all digital. So I assume the computer would say no before you get onto the plane. But yeah, if you are blissfully unaware that you need to get an ESTA before you go to the States, if you're British or any of the other countries that it's applicable for, please make sure you do get one because that's going to put a real bummer onto your vacation. Is I can't even get on holiday and I booked it. It costs a lot of money, so get the ESTA. The second error you want to avoid is travel insurance, specifically not having adequate travel insurance. This is obviously going to be potentially not just expensive, but also in terms of if something goes wrong with your health, it could be very, very, very bad. As most of us will know, the American healthcare system is private. I think absolutely everything's private, so you can't even like go into an ER or emergency room A&E. You will need insurance. If you don't have insurance, uh, it, it costs a crazy amount of money. We were in Atlanta, and my wife slipped on the grates in the sidewalk, and unfortunately banged her wrist. It transpired it was broken, but it was the last night of the holiday, and we didn't necessarily. Just took some painkillers, got a splint, and soldiered on with that true grit and determination. Even so, I did actually look up once we got home and she got it sorted. I did look up how much it would have cost to go to A&E or ER in the States, and if we had done that, the starting price would have been at least $5,000, I believe. It's somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000, depending what would need to be done. We did have travel insurance, obviously, but I was just checking. I imagine the fact she would need a cast and all this stuff. It could have been to that higher end. So that's just obviously an accident. But then if something serious happens when you're away, something very serious, heart attack, an aneurysm, anything like that, you will be hit with a massive bill, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands. And it will be very, very painful, both physically and financially. Obviously, I'm not a financial advisor, so not financial advice at all, but ensure that you are fully insured. Ensure that you are fully insured when it comes to travel, because if you're in the States and something goes wrong, it's going to be a rather unpleasant experience in a lot of different ways. Number three is either staying or wandering into the wrong part of town, the wrong neighborhood. The States, certainly those big cities, are a little bit of a weird place, to be honest, in that you can have very nice affluent areas and then just boom, you just walk over one block or indeed one street, and then suddenly you're in Hobo Central. There are people urinating or defecating in the street. There are people off their face on methamphetamine and all the other stuff. So you have to keep your wits about you and be super sensitive in terms of your surroundings and your personal safety. We found that in so many places. I think in San Francisco, we're just wandering around from in downtown, and suddenly, hang on, we're in Tenderloin, which is a pretty rough part of town. And then, okay, we are surrounded by quite a lot of people who seem to have some mental health issues. Similar kind of thing in Denver, Colorado. We went to see the Capitol building further downtown, and it's a lovely building, lovely inside. The surrounding area is quite nice, immediate area. Oh, look, there's a cathedral a couple of blocks long. Start walking there, and then, okay, there are people in tents by the side of the room. Are they shouting at me? Are they scowling at me? Are they following me? Okay, there's now people just urinating in broad daylight. Let's turn around, turn the ship around. I think you're right. So I would be super cautious of that. We did a similar thing in Atlanta where, oh, let's go and see the Capitol building in Georgia, and got off at 5 Points, is it? And then started walking. I do not feel comfortable here. This seems. We actually got to a point when walking, and I could see it was almost like an alleyway, like camped down. I had to walk through two. It was almost like a guard of honor, a hobo guard of honor for me, where homeless people was sort of just all lined up, and it was I'm out of here. But yeah, definitely keep your wits about you. I mean, most of the time you're fine, but you will see things on the news, the doom news, where someone might get, attacked or something terrible like that. But keep your wits about you and make sure you stay in, at least do your research and says that parts of town that you do want to reside in. So trust me on that one. And as a quick aside, obviously there's a lot of stuff said about homelessness in the state, and it is a serious problem. The homelessness kind of gets mixed up as well, obviously, into substance abuse and mental health. And unlike certainly in the UK, where most homeless people tend to keep themselves or relatively polite, there is, yeah, it is a little bit uneasy and a bit uncomfortable. So please, yeah, stay safe out there. Number four will be particularly pertinent to the svelte people out there, and that is the food portions. Yeah, do not make the mistake of over ordering food, because the States, most of the time, the portions are massive. A starter is going to be almost a full size meal, and you'll often see that on the menus that the starters are pretty much the same price as the mains. We made this mistake quite a lot in the early days, where we'd order a starter and then, oh my God, that's massive. And then out comes the burger or whatever it was. And that's massive as well. So what also we found was that a lot of places, maybe if you need to just request this, but a lot of places would just serve the starter and then come straight out with the main as well. So you kind of end up with a wodge, a mountain of food to eat. The other factor is that, say, the portion sizes themselves are usually considerably larger. When we were in Atlanta, so, oh, yeah, let's have a burger and fries. That's a pound of fries. That's a pound of fries. The good news is that there's no shame in asking for a doggy bag, or you should say like take out or takeaway bag. So if you do have any food left over, feel free. Ideally, if you've got a fridge in your hotel room, to pack it up, and they will happily bag it up for you, and you can take it home with them. But yeah, be super careful, because you're going to end up feeling either guilty for wasting food. I hate wasting food, or you're going to end up with serious indigestion and other gastric problems by eating too much. So yeah, don't overdo it on the grub. Number five is understanding the tipping etiquette. This has actually become a little bit more complicated post COVID, because there's been a bit of a shift in the culture. But back in the day, obviously, you would get your tips, or the waitresses or bar staff or waiters or whatever would expect a tip. Initially, back when I first started going, it was sort of 15 to 20% they'd put on the bill. That is now creeping up, sort of 18 to 25%. So be aware of that. A lot of people obviously need their tips to survive on. Certainly, as well, in this contactless society we live in, putting a tip on your card, I'm not sure if necessarily that will go to the person. So I still try to leave cash tips. Another factor is that it just was, for example, bars, restaurants, those kind of facilities that would expect tips from the waiting staff. Now you are finding a lot of places, just general shops or takeaway vans or whatever, you'll go and get your burrito, and oh no, you want me to pay 20% tip on top of that. You're just going to have a takeaway cup of coffee. So all those things are complicated. So you need to be able to aware that a lot of people do require tips to survive on. But I'm saying there's a slightly more cynical stream coming in where people are trying to exploit the culture of tipping in the States and maybe getting stuff they shouldn't really. So, yeah, you don't want anyone chasing you down the street saying, "Hey, buddy, you didn't leave a tip." But also, hang on, why am I giving you frigging $20 tip just to give me a frigging coffee and a pastry? So, oh, well, ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the interruption, but this is American Anthony here. American Anthony, big fan of Tony from Days Out Travel. He's a hell of a guy, hell of a guy. If you think he's a good guy, then please do like and subscribe. He is doing his bestest to make this entertainment, make this fun, make this enjoyable for all of us. Whoever you are, everywhere in the world, even if your accent gets a little bit choppy, after you forget. Number 6 is don't forget to take your identification with you. Now, that may sound a little bit trite, a little bit silly. However, in the States, they take a lot of stuff, certainly when it comes to alcohol, super, super serious, deadly serious. But it's not happening so much now. I don't know why it's happening so much now, but certainly up into our 30s, we would regularly get asked for ID, even in supermarkets. So when I tried to buy some wine, it's like, oh, can I have some ID, please? I'm over 21 years old. You need to be 21 to be drinking age in the States. Clearly I'm over 21. Look at this haggard face. This is a life. I just need some ID, sir. So I got out my driving license. And no, that's not right. You need a passport. I said, well, what's wrong with my driving license? Because they have the month and the date the wrong way round. So it was super annoying. But you may get caught short. So if you're going to say a ball game and you want to buy a beer, it's like, have you got any ID? No, sorry, I'm not going to serve you. I've actually seen when we went to Denver, there were quite a few things now saying in the UK, obviously, we have, hey, if you look under 25, then we'll challenge you, challenge 25. So that's quite nice. But in the States, it was challenge 40, challenge 40. So, yeah, there you go. Don't forget your ID, or you might get any alcohol with your dinner or your sporting event or your gig. Let's stick with the booze for number 7, lucky number 7, if you will, and that is be super careful with the beers in the US. America is fantastic, has so many great craft beer places, so many cities that just have these independent breweries, and they do some awesome beers, some really good stuff, especially all the IPAs and those delicious hoppy beers, but that comes at a price. Obviously, it comes at a financial price because it ain't that cheap over there. It also comes at a price to your head because a lot of this is so strong. You're going to probably struggle to find a pint of beer for under 5%. And then you get to the IPAs, you go in 6, 7, 8%. So it does really start to ratchet up. Now, that's all well and good. But if you're not paying attention or not aware, and oh, this is really because it's so drinkable, so drinkable. It's like we were in San Francisco at a nice bar just by the harbour there, and oh, this is a really nice speakeasy that was a bit. Oh, this is good. I like have a fourth pint. Let's have a fourth pint. And we were going on the trip the next day to Muir Woods, and it's like, oh, this is really good. How strong is it? 6.5%. I've had 4 pints of it. God, I felt absolutely rough the next day. But if you've been to San Francisco, the Muir Woods, Big Redwoods, absolutely stunning. Best fresh air I've ever had. I literally got off thinking, I feel absolutely hungover. Got out the van in Muir Woods, like, oh, oxygen, instant hangover cure. But do not make the mistake of having a few of those beers or not paying attention to what the actual alcoholic levels are, because you're going to have a sore head in the morning. Number 8 is another one that can catch you out, like the beers, if you're not paying attention. That is, don't expect the price that's quoted to be the price you pay. If you go into a shop, often a restaurant, a bar, or a pub, you might say, hey, it's $5, happy hour, $5 a beer. Isn't that good? So, oh, yeah, $5 a beer. It ain't gonna be $5, is it? So, what they'll do is the tax. Often well, different states have different taxes anyway, but let's just say most of them will have a sales tax. So you'll get that $5. Sounds like a bargain. There'll be a sales tax on that. Some of the other places have different types of tax, like minimum wage tax. You then, calling back to the earlier one, you'll then get a tip on top of that. So what will happen is that it will soon become more expensive than you had anticipated. So when it comes to budgeting, bear that in mind, because if you are going to go out and you start spending quite a lot of money, you go buy an expensive meal somewhere, or you're going to go to the shop and go and buy an iPhone or whatever. Potentially, it'll be like the price on there. No, hang on, there's an extra 15-20% or whatever. Then, depending on whether it's an establishment that you require tipping in, it's soon going to escalate. So, not only do you need to remember the etiquette on tipping, but make sure you are fully aware of the cost of things. There are some places, I think, with Portland, we went to Portland, Oregon, I don't think they have a sales tax. So that was, I think it was two states. Someone will tell me if this is correct. Two states that don't have sales tax. But either way, yeah, the sales tax and the other taxes, and then obviously the tipping can escalate the costs. Number 9 on the list of howlers to avoid is not preparing for the weather. The US is a very diverse place, certainly even within specific microclimates. So you go to San Francisco, it's a microclimate, so it can be very different in the course of a day. The weather can change a lot. Certainly, as well, if you're going in the winter and it can get bitterly cold. When we were in Chicago, there was a frigging ice storm. Like, ice was like horizontally smashing into my face. So it was very, very gnarly and bitter and breezy. So ensure you do your research. Am I going to have adequate waterproofing? Am I going to be warm enough? Am I going to be cool enough? And it will catch you out as well sometimes. And this has happened to us when we were in Portland. Also in Denver, actually, is that if you're obviously in the cities and so on, it can be beautiful, lovely sunny day, absolutely stunning. And you go into the mountains, because obviously you're going up the mountains. Hang on, it's dropped by 20 degrees and it's now snowing and it's a blizzard. So you can end up having 2 or 3 seasons in a day. Likewise, when we were in Austin, Texas, we had one day when it was beautiful, sunny, 20 degrees, and the following day it was 0. It was freezing. It was still lovely and clear and sunny, but it was freezing cold. So you can get caught out in that way. And when we were in Portland, we went up to Mount Hood to Timberline Lodge, and that's when the snowstorm hit, and I wasn't prepared, and I only had like a top on and a light rainproof jacket. Well, that was all right for some of the snow getting through, but I lasted maybe a few minutes out and by the lodge, and I just had to go in because it was just freezing. So make sure you prepare accordingly for the weather you may or may not be expecting to experience. Number 10 on the list is not getting out of the cities. Now, don't get me wrong, the US has got some fantastic cities, New York, Chicago, New Orleans, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, that's all good. But there's so much more to the States than just these big metropolises. I'm saying check out those day trips. So, for example, I mentioned earlier Muir Woods in San Francisco, but when we were in Las Vegas, we managed to get all the way over to Zion National Park and Bryce Canyon. That was a hell of a day trip, a long day trip, but great day trip. Another one from San Francisco, we went to Yosemite National Park, so El Capitan and all that. Absolutely beautiful, jaw-droppingly amazing. When we were in Atlanta, we got out to Stone Mountain. When we were in New Orleans, we went and did a swamp tour. When we were in Denver, we went up to the Rocky Mountains. So there's just so many amazing things, and I love the States. Obviously, I love the States, but I have to say, it's getting outside, looking at the beauty, the nature, the stunning scenery is awesome. So yeah, enjoy those cities, but make sure you get out and explore as best you can. And that is actually for me why I found some of those places. Yeah, like you might not necessarily find that many tourists in, say, New York. Perhaps or LA, but those I don't know, I can say secondary cities isn't really fair, but going to Portland, there were some brilliant day trips out there to the Astoria coast. Well, not Astoria, Astoria is on the coast, the Pacific coast. There was the Mount Hood, I talked about waterfalls. So when we were in Denver, it was like through the Rocky Mountains, Breckenridge. Just so many great things to do. So please do ensure that you do some digging, look beyond those big bright lights of the city and try and encapsulate all of the states. Certainly as well because the people are amazing. For some reason, Americans get a bit of a bad rap when it comes to tourism. In terms of it's seen as a very brash, loud, and all this sort of stuff. But the vast majority of Americans, when you go there, so kind, so polite, so humble, so gracious, so generous. Generous. We had one guy, San Diego. We were sat at the bar and he had a beagle. He just had a beagle. I was, oh, that's a cute dog. Yeah, yeah, blah blah blah. Just chatting away. He's, oh well, have a nice day. So we go to pay, and the bar says, oh, that guy with the beagle. Oh no, he paid your tab for you. What a nice guy. What a nice guy. Those are the things you want to avoid if you go to the States. But as I said, get to the States. It is an awesome place. Now, in order to get to the United States, of course, you're going to have to fly or get a very long and slow boat. So if you are going to fly and you're going to fly with American Airlines and you want to know what their business class cabin is like, then please do check out this fun packed video on the screen here.